isometric, concentric, and eccentric exercises. My understanding right now is kind of in that relative order. We go from isometric being a lower risk, but a slower muscle building, to eccentric exercises being kind of higher risk of injury, but a faster muscle building. Is that a correct way of thinking about these exercises?
I haven't thought of that before, but that's probably, I mean, maybe a little bit of an oversimplification, but actually I think that's right. I mean,
Okay.
I think
honestly could have read that somewhere.
From a
Yeah, that sounds
caution
familiar.
perspective, yeah, I think that's a good appropriate way of thinking about it.
Okay.
And when we say risk of injury, or certainly at least risk of soreness, but yeah, I guess injury too. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's good.
What are some good concentric exercises that you have in your toolbox?
Oh, well, even things like if we're adding a little bit of light hill walking going, and I guess it depends on the muscles that you're wanting to work. Mm-hmm. But let's use the quadriceps, for example, the thigh, the cranial thigh musculature. So going up the hill would be more concentric, and then going down the hill would be more eccentric. Elevated stands, if you work on, let's say you have them on a 4-inch mat and you have them put their front paws up there and they're shifting weight onto their hind legs and you're getting them to hold, that part's an isometric. Mm-hmm. But then as they then go and step up onto the mat, then you've done a concentric. Then when they go to step down on the mat, and let's say you want them to hold that's isometric. Mm-hmm. But that's also in an eccentric position. So that'd be like you and I doing a mini squat and holding. Oh, so okay. We're doing a decline stand. That's like you and I doing a mini squat. So if she comes up, and then like holds this position, and so the hold part is the isometric, and then we have her walk onto the pad, and then we're going to lure her to come down. And again, this hold part is an isometric exercise, but let's say for the quads, and we want a nice little soft bend in the knee here, we've put them in an eccentric position. So where gravity is wanting her legs to just collapse and flex, she's really having to use her quadriceps to prevent her knees from flexing too much and to just buckle. So they're working in an eccentric position, but the hold is really what is the isometric part. Because gravity's like, oh, no, we want you to come down like this. And she's like, well, no, I want my knees to be a little bit straighter. I don't want them to just buckle all the way, and I don't want to collapse. So I have to use my quads here to prevent me from just buckling. And then as she steps off of it, then she's, actively using eccentrically. So like if she were going downstairs, that would be an eccentric workout for her quads. Or going down a hill, that's eccentric workout. So she's, excuse me, she's controlling too much flexion.
Or lengthening.
By length, right, doing a lengthening contraction. So for example, with the iliopsoas, it's a hip flexor, but what it does when dogs are running, it's controlling too much extension. By doing an elongation, I know it's paradoxical, an elongation contraction of the iliopsoas prevents from too much extension. And so that's why a lot of times when iliopsoas gets injured, it's an eccentric injury. It's working in its capacity to control too much hip extension happening too fast. And the quads, when they're going down a hill or stepping off of exercise piece of equipment or going downstairs, that kind of thing, jumping off boulders if they're hiking or whatever. It's preventing too much flexion happening too quickly in the stifle joints if we're thinking about the quad. So then it has to work in an elongation fashion to do that.
So that
That helps.
the injury happens because it went too far, you strained it, you pulled it, something happened.
And yes, yeah. And what happens, what I find often happens when dogs have cruciate issues is we think of a lot of, like shifting weight into the hind leg, doing a lot of elevated stands, those kind of things, which are great. And those are a little more concentric type works, going up hills, those kind of things. But the thing with eccentric activity, because it is meant to work on controlling motion, it's really used a lot also for ballistic activities, running, jumping. It gives you that deceleration control. Like if a dog is going to go and fetch something, it's running, then it's going to go and try and get the frisbee or whatnot, or the tennis ball that landed on the ground. And to decelerate, you have to use eccentric contractions to do that. And I see that's a part that gets missed a lot in our rehab process, is working on that eccentric type of activity. So a lot of times too, what I'll do is like when they get to where they're healed enough and I want them, and they love fetching, let's say, then what we might start off first with is, okay, have your dog on a stand stay and then just roll the ball a little bit. Let them go run and get it, and then bring it back to you. So they had to decelerate to target and get the ball, and then they can bring it back to you. And that's another way of doing eccentric work. Jumping is also eccentric work. So I'll do things like when the time is right, and if they're allowed to be on the sofa, then we might, and the sofa is not too high, like say 20 inches or lower, then we might practice just hop up on the sofa and do what we call destination jumping, and then hop back down. Or other stuff to do.
For a jumping up onto the sofa though, is it sort of like, I can almost see like a concentric followed by an eccentric motion
Yes.
during the actual, like the concentric
Yes.
would happen as they get ready, and they're kind of like, they're
You're right. It's
You know,
kind of a transition.
it's phased.
Yeah.
So it's like concentric as they're getting ready to jump. When they jump, it's eccentric because it's lengthening. And then when they tuck their feet to land again, it's concentric again.
Well, and when they tuck their feet to land, it is a little more eccentric because gravity is wanting them to just kind of buckle, just collapse on the ground, and you have to do eccentric. But yes, it's actually a transition of concentric to eccentric. So you jump up on the sofa, you have to decelerate when you're jumping up onto the sofa, or you're going to run into the back of the sofa. And then also when they jump down, that's also that deceleration to jump down in a controlled way is eccentric work. And so, I mean, and just in terms of, again, I don't know if you can see this very well, but,
I can see it.
they could come up here, they can come up here. Let's say this red peanut was against the sofa, so the sofa's right there, and so the peanut's not gonna wobble on them. Then they turn around and they come back down, and then they climb back down, more eccentric work, climb back down, that type of thing. So that's a whole mix of concentric and eccentric. And then if you're doing any type of hold phases, that would be the isometric part.
I mean, it's so difficult and complex because you've got so many different muscles, and you've got the core and the ones that are working the muscles and stabilizing.
And it all depends on what muscles you're talking about as to
Yeah.
whether it's concentric or eccentric.
Right.
But that's also why it's important too to do some eccentric activities when there's tendinopathies, because we have to get that tendon strong when it's getting pulled in this eccentric way.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so things like very controlled, safe destination jumping, very controlled recalls, or how you progress with fetching, or even like fetching into the water and retrieving in the water and all those kinds of things. And I can't remember if I mentioned, for example, if it's a sporting dog, and I had done some cruise ship rehab, when I work with them on recalls at the stage that's appropriate to do so, first it's with them like on a sit stay. I get directly in front of them, they come to me, so they're doing that running, but it's controlled, it's in a linear sagittal plane. Mm-hmm. Then I progress to standing 45 degrees to the side of them. So they come up and run, but they have to do a little turn. We progress with that. Then I might stand completely to their right or left. They have to stand up and do a sharper turn, and then I'll progress to standing behind them. And they have to come up to standing and do a real sharp turn and come back, because I need to get them strengthened to handle those quick rotational kinds of movements. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that with every dog. It just depends on what their return to sport or return to play goals are. And it's only if I thought their body could handle it. And so go ahead.
So Cavalettis could be used a little bit in that sort of, targeted goals, just to, like, I've seen you do rotations at around,
Oh, right. Like when I had there, again, I think it's in the video, I have Roxy is her name, a yellow lab in my yard, and I had oriented the Cavalettis at 90 degrees. So we stepped over, turned, and she was a cruciate dog who did not have surgery. She had shockwave and a brace. Mm-hmm. But we got to where, we were adding these rotational things. And she did really, really well with those. So,
Deanna, I love your answers because they are so thorough and they put everything into context. So you'll always say, I gave you a lot of information. I'm not sure if you wanted it all, but I do, because it
okay.
Think through every piece of it the way I'm trying to learn. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking so much time. Because of that video, I actually did that for a patient when I was trying to get her to complete a certain exercise. So that really ended up being like very functional for me.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Good. All right.